All right. How's everyone doing this evening, this Sunday evening? I am here with three special guests today, and we're going to talk about the importance of voting. And the reason why I wanted to come and do this panel discussion is because voting is such an important thing for our not only our young people to do, but others who are older and may not be registered to vote. Especially in the climate that we're in today, voting is just so important. And I wanted these three guests to help me break that down to you guys. So I'm going to start with the first person to my right is Mr. Rajon Lewis. Rajon Lewis is a native of North Charleston, South Carolina, and serves the community in a variety of capacities. He is the executive director of Low Country Youth Services, an organization with an express mission of providing youth engagement opportunities via mentorship and community workshops. He also is the host of Real Talk with Rajon, which, if you don't watch already, I definitely suggest you watch. He also is, he and his wife Latoya have five children. So that's Mr. Lewis. Uncle Z is what I call him. So there he is right there. Next we have Teddy Pryor. Teddy Pryor was born in Charleston, South Carolina, and serves as the City of Charleston Council member. Pryor attended Trident Technical College as well as Amoco School of Business. Hopefully I said that right. He is married and has three adult children as well as three grandchildren. And then at the bottom of our screen, we have Miss Danielle Benson, who's born and raised in Low Country area. After attending Coker College, she began her career in logistics and freight forwarding. In her spare time, Danielle volunteered with the Charleston County Democratic Party as a precinct coordinator. She's the former chair of the North Charleston Area Democrats. Danielle is now a Low Country organizer for the South Carolina Democratic Party, coordinating campaign for Jamie Harrison for Senate. So thank you all so much for joining.
Thank you.
Great. So we're going to go ahead and begin. I don't want to hold you all long, but I do want to get these questions answered and this information out there to our audience. So I'm going to start with Mr. Lewis, and I'm going to just kind of go down to Teddy Pryor and then you, Ms. Benson. So question number one, what would you say to someone who feels as if their vote does not count?
I would tell them to look at history. I would start first of all. Thank you for having us. I want to make sure I say that before I even get started. But if you look at the history of our country and you look, especially looking at the history of African Americans in our country, the last thing that we were guaranteed was the vote. We were freed, quote unquote, in 1865, and then we were, the 14th and 15th Amendments passed, which allowed us to have the right to vote, and then that was immediately snatched away, especially in the South. Because of the Great Compromise of 1876, and African Americans are limited the right to vote. That tells me how important the vote is. The links that people have been willing to go through throughout the history of our nation to stop African Americans from voting, even up until this day, when you talk about voter suppression laws, tells us exactly how important the vote is. I would also say that our vote is our voice. That's our way to be heard. That's our way to make our opinions known and make the changes that we really want to see in the world. It's cool to protest. It's cool to be in these streets, but we also have to hit the polls.
Most definitely, most definitely. Deacon Pryor?
I would concur with Brother Lewis, but I'd add further, if you don't vote, you don't have a say-so. Young people often feel that, if I don't vote, I can go out and complain, but your vote is the most important thing that you have. Sometimes your candidate may not win, but you still had a right to go out and cast a vote. Now you got a voice because you can complain because you voted. You have people like Congressman Lewis, who just died, and who was in a joint in the civil rights movement. People like him and our forefathers who died to give us the right to vote. So, teenagers starting at the age of 17 and 18, as soon as you turn 18, you should vote. You should get involved in the process, because if you don't get involved by voting, you don't have a say-so. And by not voting, you're giving somebody else the right to make decisions for you. So it is very important that our young people as well as old people, I've known people in their 30s hadn't voted, and I was like, why you didn't vote? Well, I just didn't care. It wouldn't count. Well, after talking to them and explaining, then you see a different picture. But that's very important, especially this election coming up. We have the Supreme Court that's at stake. We have our voting rights that's at stake. And I'm telling you, this is very crucial. So young people, if you're not registered, get registered. And if you're registered and haven't voted, start voting.
Yes, ma'am. And Ms. Benson?
Yes, so I agree with Mr. Lewis, Mr. Pryor. Your every single vote does count. I don't recall the name off the top of my head, but there was a case in 2017 in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where there were two people who were running for office, and it came down to one single vote that would determine who would win that seat. And the state legislature had to do a toss up to see who would get that one vote, because it wasn't clear as to which way that vote was going to go. Unfortunately, that vote did go to the Republican. But to me, that tells me every single vote counted. And that was the highlight that stuck out to me the most, because it was down to that one singular vote. So if we had additional people that came out for that election in 2017 for that young lady that was running for office, she would have won that seat without any other interference. So anytime someone tells me that they don't think their vote counts, I always reference that story, because it was literally down to one vote that made the difference in who's going to obtain that seat. So definitely, I recommend everyone to get registered to vote. There's no excuse, especially for this election. 2016 was the election that everyone should have been involved in. And we've been granted one last chance to turn this thing around and make it right. Because as Mr. Pryor said, the Supreme Court is on the line. Women's reproductive rights are on the line. I mean, there's so many things that would go away after this election if it goes the wrong way. We may not be able to vote ever again. So definitely make your vote count. There are plenty of resources that show you how to get registered. If you don't know, ask questions. It is completely okay not to know where to go to vote, or the situation with the absentee. There's plenty of resources. We have this thing called a cell phone. It has buku information of where you can go to find out where to go vote, where to get registered, and everything like that. So use the technology, ask questions, ask family and friends, and ask complete strangers. Someone can tell you where to go and to make sure your vote counts in the 2020 election.
Most definitely, most definitely. And to your point, we've been voting, ever since we were kids in a way. Do you want McDonald's or do you want Chick-fil-A for lunch? And let's say one kid says McDonald's and one kid says Chick-fil-A. The other kid's vote is so important, because that decides where you're going to go for lunch and where you're going to go for dinner. So just as we're kids, I think we should take that with us into adulthood. Voting is so important. Choosing who you want to kind of guide and direct you and lead you, not only nationally, but just in your city and your county as well. I think that is so important. And then also to your point, Mr. Pryor, the late Congressman Lewis, I found a quote on Instagram. He said, "Vote is the most powerful nonviolent tool we have." And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I believe that is the most powerful and nonviolent tool we have, and it can change so much, as Ms. Benson was saying.
Yes.
All right. The second question I have, pull this up. What would you say to someone who wants to vote but does not have reliable transportation to the voting polls? Mr. Lewis, I'll start with you.
All right, so great question. All right, so that's something that definitely comes up a lot of times, especially in lower income areas, or when you talk about areas that don't have good public transportation. I know last year during the election, they actually had voting a calling thing where you could call into the Democratic Party, and your local Democratic Party would actually have people come pick you up and take you to the polls. I drove myself to get some people to the polls because it meant that much to me. Which is an issue that I hope I remember to get to by the end of this. But going beyond the issue of going beyond the vote, but I want to make sure that I speak about the vote. If you do not have reliable transportation, find a family member, go to a family member, ask somebody. You can also vote in advance. You can do absentee voting. So there's all these different opportunities that you have to vote if you don't already have it, but also plan ahead. If you know that you don't have the reliable transportation, ask your neighbors. If your neighbor definitely has the same voting district that you do, so make sure that you ask them beforehand. Hey, when are you going to vote? I really want to go vote, but I don't have a ride. Can you take me with you? So those are options that you have.
Right, definitely.
And also, I'll add to that, South Carolina voter participation has been doing this for many, many years. They have a hotline number if you need a ride. They will take you to the polls. You have a lot of churches, that voluntary vans, and you got neighbors. You got, even you got candidates that are running. Make sure that you get to the polls. They will take you there. But that's no excuse. I mean, you say you don't have a ride. I don't, buy into that, because we find rides to go anywhere else we want to. If you're working and you got to get to work, you either catch the bus, or you get out, you walk, or you ride a bike, you catch it. So to me, voting is just as important as working. And so if you really want to vote to make a difference, there's no excuse. There's other options to get out there. So, and I say to young people, you find a way to get to the clubs, you find a way to get to the movies, so find a way to get to the polls.
Yep. Yes, sir. And Ms. Benson?
You guys took the words right out of my mouth. If you guys got time to go and ride around and go to the beach or go to the club or go to the mall, you can definitely find a ride to get to the polls. Make it a friends thing. Like, if you guys know that, we all know that November 3rd is going to be crazy. So as Mr. Lewis said, plan ahead. Go ahead, and once you see open voting for absentee voting, or you can go vote early at one of the precincts, call all your friends. Like, you know what? Look, we're gonna go October XYZ date. We're all gonna go get it done, and then after we'll go get lunch, or we'll go get or go get a snack or something. Just make a plan and stick with it. Just like you plan for anything else, you plan to go out, you planning to go out of town. Anytime you make a plan to do something, you go over the plan, bring some friends with you, and execute the plan. And then guess what? After that, you're done. There's nothing else you need to do. It's quite simple and it's quite easy. So definitely plan ahead. There are programs that will help get you a ride to the polls. I know for sure. So CCDP did the same thing for the 2018 election for the midterms. South Carolina Democratic Party is also developing a program that's helping get people to the polls. There's Black Voters Matter. They have an actual large bus, a charter bus that they were using to get people to the polls in the 2018 election. So there's so many different opportunities. I know Lyft, the rideshare company, they were offering free rides to the polls as well. So keep an eye out. Once you find out there is a free rideshare program or any way to get to the polls, like I said, plan ahead. Plan with your friends, plan with your family, ask a family member, and then post that information on your socials. The one thing that I always find is important is that once you find information that's valuable, share that information. Don't let that information just stay with you. If you know that Lyft is providing you with free rides, post that on your Facebook, on your Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever social program that you use. So that way everyone has an opportunity to get to the polls. And for those people who do have cars, offer to take people to the polls with you. If you have an SUV, rickshaw, van, whatever the case is, call your friends and ask them, hey, I'm going to vote on Saturday. Are you coming with me? If not, then let's plan another day so we can go to vote. There's no excuse, as Mr. Pryor said.
Awesome, exactly. And I love your point, just kind of make it a fun day. Go get some lunch, go hang out, and let's go to the polls. I think our generation specifically is so caught up in, well, I'm not interested in politics, or I don't do politics. Politics it basically decides what you're going to do and how you're going to live. Voting is so important, and so great point. Just make it fun. It doesn't have to be this dreadful thing. It's a good experience and can actually change your life.
Hey, and to add to that, this is most young people, they organize block parties weeks and months in advance, organize a voter, get out party, and just take your friends out. And as Ms. Vincent said, after that, just go to lunch, hang out and do something. Coach, we want a social distance, and make sure we wear our masks and see. But I would tell you, if you don't have a plan, someone else have a plan for you. So if you don't vote, someone has a plan for you, and it's not going to be what you want. It's going to be what they decide. And, it's no need to complain, because if you didn't vote, you don't have a voice.
Exactly. Mic drop. Love that. The next question we have on here, how do I know that my vote counts? There have been, just things going on, and, sometimes whenever people vote, their vote ends up not counting, or something happens and people just feel like, well, it's just going to be a waste of time. So kind of just walk me through, how would someone know that their vote counts and that this is actually worth it? Mr. Lewis?
So they'll know that. How do you know your vote counts? One, the way you know your vote counts is because, like we said in the beginning, if it didn't count, they wouldn't try to stop you from doing it. Like they would not have limitations on the ability to vote. If it did not count, they would just say, do whatever you want, because we've got our people decided anyway. So that's how you know your vote counts. The fact that people would go out of their way to take it from you. Think about it. They don't try to take, like, if I'm trying to think of it in another way of saying it. If there's something, anything that matters, or the things that they want to, the things that matter the most are the things that they try to take away from you. If it's something that didn't matter, they wouldn't try to take it away from you. Danielle talked about the vote in Virginia. I know about a vote in Mount Pleasant that happened that came down to, I believe, less than like 5 or 6 votes. I happen to know that there was a vote in the Democratic primary that came down to less than 150 votes. So when you're talking about numbers that small, you're talking about numbers that small, every single vote matters. And you may think to yourself, well, on a presidential level, you know, they have the Electoral College, so the votes have to go, you know, if your state, like South Carolina is a traditionally red state, so my vote doesn't matter. But your vote does count toward the popular vote, and that matters. And your vote also is gonna count down tickets. So when you're talking about voting for senators, voting for the House of Representatives, voting for your mayor, voting for your sheriff, voting for all these different things that you have to vote for, your vote matters there. So don't think about it on just a presidential level. Think of it on the from the statewide on down as well.
Definitely.
Great point, Brother Lewis. And remember, and like I tell people, all votes matters. If it didn't matter, they wouldn't, you know, try so hard to keep you from getting there. They wouldn't put so much, you know, obstruction in the way. And, you know, but I tell people all politics to me are local. I mean, you know, I love the, you know, the federal government. You know, working with them. I love working with the state, but your school board, your city elections, your county elections, those are the ones that's going to affect you the most, because those are the ones you see on a daily basis. And I tell people, don't get discouraged. You know, no matter who's in the White House, you still got a voice in your local government, because, you know, those are the people that represent you in these certain districts. And those are the people that are going to fight to get things you need done more on the local level. I mean, there's so much bureaucracy in the federal government right now. I know a lot of people are discouraged. Don't let that discourage you. The president in office right now has appointed over 200 federal judges. Those are lifetime appointments. And who's he appointing? People look like him. I think he only had one minority so far, one minority female, I believe, out of all the 200 judges. That tells you why your vote is important, and that tells you why your vote counts. You know, they blocked President Obama on every angle to try to make him a one-term president. Everything he sent up, they blocked. So we got to get out. We got to vote. We got to take back the Senate. We got to take back the House. We got to take back the presidency, you know, to do things to help people, you know, who think like us and who do things to help the smaller and the local folks. So if you think your vote don't count, if you stay at home, it definitely won't count. I guarantee you that. But if you go out, you know, when you vote, demand to see it. They give it to you down the new voting machines. You can see who you cast your vote for. And if it's not correct, you can go back in. And if you go to the polls and it says, well, you're not here, you can't, do a challenge ballot, okay? Because all that counts, and that will be, I think a lot of people need to understand and learn, when you go to the polls and it says, well, I don't see your name on here, don't get discouraged. I want to do a challenge ballot, okay? You do a challenge ballot, they will go and then they find out that you did have the right to vote, that vote will count. But remember, to me, all politics are local. And, you know, I focus on local politics and what I can do to help my constituents and, you know, and my people. Yeah, the federal government is in turmoil right now, and we need a change. I'm telling you, young people, we need a change. Young people stayed at home in the last election, and you see what it cost us. Two Supreme Court justices so far, and I'm praying that Ruth Bader Ginsburg hang on until we can get a Democrat in the House, because I don't want to see another third by this president.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ms. Vincent?
So I just would like to say that every vote counts. I remember my first time voting was for Barack Obama. That was on my birthday, November 4th, 2008. I was working 3 jobs and going to school twice a week at Trident Tech. I made a point to go to that poll at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I waited. I had my coffee. I waited and I cast my ballot, and I couldn't even be prouder thinking about that moment, watching Barack Obama win on my birthday, eating cake and drinking champagne, because it was a triumphant moment. But unfortunately, 2 years later, in 2010, the same people who showed up for Barack Obama didn't show up for the midterm elections. That caused the Republican Party to take control of our Congress all this time up until 2018. So when I say that your vote counts and it matters, it does matter, because of the turmoil and the non-voting aspect of 2010 and every midterm election since 2018. That put us in the position that we are now, where Republicans have control of the Senate still. Now, we were able to take back the House in 2018, thank goodness, but 2020 is our last chance to take back the Senate. We must have 5 seats to swing our way in order for us to be able to restore the Voting Rights Act, which is super important, and a lot of people don't understand. when the Voting Rights Act was demolished by the Supreme Court justices, that really struck down a lot of the things that are making voting as hard as it is today. So voting is important. A lot of young kids probably think, well, I'm not involved in politics. It doesn't matter. It does matter. It matters for you. It matters for your grandparents. It matters for your future children, your current children, your aunts, uncles. And all politics is local, like Mr. Pryor said. If there's something happening in your neighborhood and you don't like, or there's an increase in police presence, or there's something that's going down that you don't like, and if you're not attending any of these city council meetings and making sure that these votes go the right way, if you're not attending these county council meetings, these decisions are being made for you. So when something happens and you don't like it, well, shoulda, woulda, coulda, you should have been at that meeting to find out what was going down. So you could have made your voice heard. But as Mr. Pryor said, once again, local politics is local. So you definitely have to get involved and understand that your vote does count. Your vote is your voice, and you need to make it heard. I think back to that postcard I saw a while ago. I think it was in the 2016 election. And there were like 1 million people on this one side of the postcard, and there were like a few people on this side. And most people said, my vote doesn't matter. And on this side, with the less amount of people, it says my vote does matter. Imagine if people on the side with 1 million people had the mindset that their vote matters, could have changed everything in 2016. So yes, your voice does count. And if you don't think your vote doesn't count, as Mr. Lewis said, check your history. It does matter. People fought, bled, and died for our rights to vote. And for anyone to sleep on that, I'm sorry for you. That's a bad mindset to have. So definitely look at our history. If you need help with understanding civics and how politics is tied to every single aspect of your life, definitely look into that because it's truly important.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Great points.
Can I chime in one more point on that right there?
Most definitely.
I would, when we keep saying that they tried to take it away from us, I want you to understand, right? They freed African Americans, right? They said, okay, we'll get rid of the institution of slavery, all right, but we're not gonna let all y'all vote. And then they took away the vote altogether, right? They let us eat in the same restaurants, but they didn't want us to vote. They let us go to the same schools, but they wouldn't let us vote. They let us do all these different things that they wanted us to. They were trying to stop us from doing. And the last thing that they decided to solidify after Dr. King was killed was to give us the vote. Think about that. That when we talk about know the history of this thing and why we cannot afford to sit here and say my vote doesn't matter. We have to look at the things that our ancestors had to go through to get us here. And though we're in 2020 and we're 3 generations removed from the civil rights movement, a lot of the things that we care about right now that are being impacted are direct results of the fact that we have not voted as a demographic in high number. So people don't respect our votes. We have to make people respect the black vote. They can't just throw a barbecue chicken dinner party and then say, oh, now I got the black vote. They can't just have a fish fry and say, oh, now I got the black vote. One person in Columbia, as much as I love Jim Clyburn, and I do, but Jim Clyburn should not be the only person that can just say, hey, vote for this person, and all of us move that way. We should be knowledgeable within and of ourselves to be able to say, I'm voting because it's important that I vote, and it's important that I know why I'm voting. I want to make sure I said that. Sorry.
And check the
Great
record.
points.
Check the record to see what they have done for you in the past, and that'll tell you what they'll do for you in the future. And these folks come out and say, "Well, just put on a mask to leave," and you need to make sure that you you get out, you make them earn your vote. Okay,
yes,
that's it. We ought to have people saying, hey, what are you going to do for me? How's this going to affect me and my family? How's this going to affect me as a young adult? Make them earn your vote. Okay, and people respect you more when you ask them to, and they come out and they say, hey, here's why I need you to vote for me. Here's what I want to do. Because if you don't, I'm telling you, people would take advantage of you. Brother Rezon is exactly right. The old adage, well, that's better than what I had, or I don't know what I'm going to get. Check the book. Okay, the book will tell you what a person has done for you in the past. That'll tell you what they're going to do for you in the future. Now, having said that, we have a lot of young people out here that needs to get involved in politics and should be involved in politics because there needs to be a change in the old guard. Okay, I've been in politics for many, many years. I'm not looking to stay in politics for a lifetime. But, trying to train somebody to come and step up to the plate, nobody wants to step up to the plate. So you don't want to walk away until you find somebody who's capable or who wants to take up to the plate. Now, mentoring people, I'd be glad to do that. If some young person wants to be mentored, I'd gladly do that to help them move to the next level. But the reason you see a lot of old politicians in the office is because young people don't step up and says, "Hey, it's our time. We need to move forward." But I think you see the movement down is we want change. Change is coming. Old people have to embrace change and get out of the way because young people are really willing to make change. Okay, they call us old because we know the way. Y'all are are young and strong. But remember, there's a lot of knowledge you can get by just sitting down and talking and asking people. And then once you've learned that knowledge, you move to the next level.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And I'm going to throw this question back at you, Ms. Vincent. It kind of goes over everything we kind of glossed over. But so we have people who vote in the, presidential elections, of course, but they don't know why they have to vote in the local and, the statewide. And I just want you to maybe break that down. Why is that so important? I know we glossed over it, but just kind of drill that in if you don't mind for me.
So to piggyback off of what Mr. Pryor said, all politics is local. So for example, if you have children and there are people on the school board who are voting for things that are not detrimental to your children, specifically African American children,
Right.
you need to be there to find out what's going on. And if you feel like the people on that school board or that city council or that county council is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they are supposed to be representing you and your children and your family. You need to challenge them and ask them questions. What's that line? Show me the receipts. I need to see what you are doing to help benefit me and my family and my children. For example, we have a governor who's trying to get our children to go back to school in the fall. We are in the middle of a pandemic. Mind you, these private schools he's trying to force funds to go to these private schools. However, our public schools are falling apart. Some of these schools look the same from when I was a child, and I was born in 1984. So when I say that your vote counts and everything's local, this is where you live. This is your home. If you are a person that's active and going out to the park and wants to do recreational things in the area, and you see that the recreational center is looking a hot mess, that's a local issue. You need to go to your city council or go to your mayor and ask these people, hey, this rec center looks the same from 30 years ago. Why hasn't it been upgraded? Why is there a new gym on the other side of town where people who don't look like me live when this gym looks raggy? I answer my question. So when I say politics is local, I also mean that there's no grocery store in my old neighborhood. You know where the naval base is? There's no grocery store. There was a Winn-Dixie there several years ago. There's not one grocery store in that area. Politics is local. People should have been challenging the current mayor of North Charleston and asking him, hey, when can we get a grocery store here? The people can get together and build a co-op and have fresh vegetables and fresh fruit instead of having to go to a Dollar General or a General Dollar to get groceries that may not be healthy for them. So these are things that are local that need to be voted upon. You need to make sure you have the right mayors. You need to make sure you have the right city council people, county council people, school board people that are voted in that are going to be beneficial to you and your family. The 2018 election showed us a lot, especially when it came to the school board. There were people that were voted in that were not for the benefit of children, especially African American children. So make sure you are asking the right questions going to these events and asking for the receipts. How are you helping my family? How are you going to make things safe for my child in the fall? How are we going to open up schools safely to where my child will not get coronavirus or anything else and be safe? So that's just my take on it.
Most definitely, most definitely. Does anyone else want to add on to that one?
Just the piggyback on Ms. Vincent, show up to the meetings. So often, we're sitting in there, we're making decisions. Nobody shows up to the meetings. But after the fact, when the decision is made, everybody's got so much to say. Other people, when they got a real key issue in their demographics or in their community, they pack the house, okay? And, whether that impacts the vote or not, normally it does because people see you're interested and they say, hey, these people got a voice. We want to make sure that they get what they need. When you stay home and complain to each other and don't show up, people are less likely to take it seriously. So show up in numbers. And when you come in numbers, politicians understand numbers because they know that's an electric and they know that, hey, that's what keeps me in office, satisfying my constituents. So show up in numbers, organize, come out, tell them what you want. And if they don't do what you want, you keep coming until you get what you want. You just can't come up one time and say, "Oh, that's it, I'm done." Keep coming, show up, learn what's going on. Take the government classes that they offer for free, so citizens can know how your government works, how your tax dollars are being spent. Those classes are out there, and you can take them, and they're free. So those are the kind of things we need to get involved in. They find time to get involved with everything else, except the fact that politics affect your life and makes the decisions for you. You need to be involved. People go to work, they go to church, but they don't come to meetings.
Right. And Mr. Lewis, did you want to?
Yeah, just to, again, all great points. I looked up a few things because I like to try to have stuff to go with what I'm saying sometimes, and so I looked up like reasons why, like issues that are covered on a local level, right? And Danielle did a great job of explaining those things that when you talk about your local schools, all right, that's something that's dealt with on a local level, all right. That's a local issue. That's something that you need to make sure. So if you have a problem with your school, you need to be. That's a local election situation. When you're talking about policing and public safety, we're talking about Black Lives Matter right now, right? You want to talk about Black Lives Matter? Guess what? The president does not select your local sheriff. The president isn't over the policing practices that happen in your city or in your state. That's not a presidential thing. That's a legislative thing, and that's something that's governed by your local government. Rent cost and affordable housing. If that's something that you care about, if you want to be able to, I'll put it this way: when I was in high school, I moved out of high school. I moved out of my mom's house when I was in high school, my senior year. I got an apartment for $550. It was a very small apartment, but I could afford an apartment. Right now, on a non-rent controlled income, you cannot get an apartment for $550 anywhere that I can think of. All right. So if you care about rent costs and affordable housing, that's a local issue. Public transit, that's a local issue. That's something if you care about how you get from point A to point B without owning a vehicle, you should probably vote in local elections. If you're somebody who's running around here talking about they should legalize marijuana, guess how you get that voted in? Guess how to make that decision? They vote on that. So if that's something you care about, or if you want to make sure that it's not legalized, again, you vote on that. City colleges and job training programs. You said, well, there's not enough programs for people to get jobs who didn't graduate from high school or who need extra job training. That's a local issue. So those are just a few issues that are not taken care of on a federal level. Those are state and local issues. So, it's really important that when you know what's going on and you're not just, and it's cool to get the sticker. I know, I got the sticker, I voted, and so cool. But if all you did was walk in and vote straight party, you really didn't do us any good. I got to be honest with you. Get educated, get knowledgeable. Like Mr. Pryor said, please talk to your elders. They've been around the block. And if your elders don't know the issues, then find you another person that knows about the issues. Google. We use the internet for everything else. Google it. Who are my local legislators? Who's running? Go to vote.org, Ballotpedia, and there's a whole lot of other places. Shoot, on Facebook now, you can literally type in your address in your profile, and it will list all of your local legislators. So make sure you're doing that. And one thing I also wanted to say, whether you voted for somebody or not, they still represent you. Hold them accountable. Mr. Pryor said earlier, we got to show up at the town hall meetings. I make a point of it to go to at least I try to go every other month, if I don't go every month, to my local town hall meetings. Even though a whole lot of it is, a lot of elders walking in and complaining about things that I, at the age of 38, don't care as much about as I probably would at their age. But you know what the issues are they're dealing with. And do not be afraid to run. I've heard about people running for local offices as young as like 20, 21 years old and getting elected. You don't need to wait to your specific age unless you're running for certain offices like the presidency. But other than that, you can run for anything at any age. As long as you're registered to vote, you can run. So yeah, that.
Awesome.
Yeah. And one more quick point. The census, everyone needs to make sure they fill the census out because that's important. That's the money from the federal government is allocated to your particular state, your particular district. We're in the process of now doing redistricting next year. The census will be very, very important on how your districts are drawn for single member districts. And, we need to make sure we get out and we need to push that as well as voting. Go out. If you have to do it electronically, 2 or 3 minutes, it's done. Okay, you don't have to have somebody come knock on your door no more. You don't have to answer. You can go on the internet. You can get it all done, or you can mail it in. But that's very important too, because that's how your seats are drawn for certain districts, for your school boards, your county council members, your house members, your state house, your federal, senators, on and on. So let's please make sure we try to get people to fill out that census, because that's real important as well.
Most definitely. And after this, if you guys can send me links and stuff, I will post that in the YouTube comment section, Facebook, and everywhere, so we can get that out there. That's so important. The last question that I have, well, it's not really a question, it's more so of a statement. Obviously, you guys know that Kanye West held a rally in North Boston um, maybe a week ago. Whenever I was there, I didn't go inside of it. We drove past it, and I just saw so many young people lined up to see Kanye. While he was in there, a lot of things that he said didn't quite make sense or weren't even true throughout his presidential campaign, I guess you can call it. And he got called out on social media for it. What do you say to people who are like, you know what, Joe Biden, I don't really care for him. Trump, I don't care for him either. I like Kanye's music. I like Kanye. Why not vote for Kanye? Why is that, I guess, could be considered a wasted vote in this climate that we're in right now? Anyone can answer if they feel comfortable.
Well, to tell you, you can't take a guy who's never been in politics and elect him to the highest office in the United States, number one. Anybody that's associated with the Kardashians, that'll tell you right there, you don't take serious. That's just my personal view. Okay, so that tells you that everybody who they touch, it's like they're ruined so far. So number one. Number two, for those folks that says, well, I don't know between Biden, I don't know between Trump. Well, just look at the issues and see who will benefit you the most, and look at the past, and that'll tell you what they'll do for you in the future. Now, I've had a lot of young people I talk to and I come across, and I'm like, okay, so you say, well, I'm not going to vote for Biden, because Bernie Sanders didn't win, or Elizabeth Warren didn't win. Well, if you don't vote for Biden, that's a vote for Trump if you stay home. Let's just be honest. I'm a Democrat, been a Democrat all my life. Democrat is an open tent. Democrat shares values. I don't agree with 100% what they do, but they're closer to my values than the Republicans, so I will tell you that. And so I support Joe Biden 100%, and I think he's 100% better than what we have in there right now. Look at the pandemic. Look at what's going on. You have a self-centered person in there that's all about me. He doesn't lie. He doesn't do this. It's all about him. Look at his past record with discrimination when him and his father was in the rental business. That tells you who he is. And so, if people show you who they are, basically that's who they are. So young people need to just, to me, get off of the, I can't stand this, but I can't stand with, listen to your elders, okay? You want to put people in office who is going to benefit you. Nobody's perfect, okay? Nobody's perfect. He that is perfect has been going on. And we know his name is Jesus Christ. And so, politics, like I say, it's I wouldn't say a funny game, but it's a dangerous, life-changing game. In order to get change the game, you got to be in the game. And that's one of the reasons why I got into politics at a young age, because I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to see a difference. Okay, and those of you who had kids or are raising kids, you want to see what's best for your kids. We are moving on now. We are on the back end of our career. We're on the back end of us. I hope we live another 20, 30 years. But we want people in office that are going to espouse the views, your Christian values. But remember, I tell people about abortion. Abortion is a tough subject, but don't let that be the only reason why you vote for somebody. Because what happens after that, you bring them into the world and you starve them to death. So what's the difference? You either kill them or you starve them. And, a lot of people are into abortion and they make that a key issue to vote on, but they forget about everything else. So, look at the record, see what benefits you. And it's not the lesser two evils. It's who line up with your values the most.
Most definitely.
To piggyback on Mr. Pryor said, I wholeheartedly agree. I know that a lot of people are single issue voters, and that's fine and dandy, but we also have to think we have to share this country with a lot of different other people who have different values and ideas. And as Mr. Pryor said, you want to vote for the person whose ideals and values align with you. I think that's Joe Biden. Is Joe Biden the person that I supported during the primary? No, but he is our candidate, and he's the person going up against Donald Trump. If we had the same type of thought process in 2016, we would not be in this situation right now. This would be Hillary Clinton's re-election campaign. So I need people to understand and get past that their particular primary candidate did not get to the finish line. It is what it is. This is what we have to deal with. We know who Joe Biden is. Joe Biden is not a stranger to politics. He's not a stranger to us at all. He was number 2 behind Barack Obama, President Barack Obama. So there's no mystery as to who Joe Biden is. Is he more old school than I think? Then yeah, he is a little bit more old school than the person I supported. And that's okay. I would much rather have someone who has been in politics most of his life and understands how the real world is not somebody who was born with a silver spoon in their mouth, who has not been racist, xenophobic, sexist, and any other isms and phobias that I can think of that has sullied the seat of the president of the United States of America. But one of the last things that Donald Trump said before he was elected was, what do you have to lose? Well, look at the last 4 years. What have we lost? A lot of the plans and positions that President Barack Obama put in place, the first thing that President Donald Trump did was to take all those things down. He either nullified it, removed it, or rolled it back, and has made things additionally worse. Every time he tweets, every time he goes on the news, it fuels the flames of racism and division in our country. I cannot go through that for another 8 years. I'm sorry. I don't know about you guys, but I refuse to go through that for another 4 years of what we have right now. So yes, we do have a lot to lose. We have two people in the Supreme Court who are over the age of 85 who should have retired long time ago. Every time we see Ruth Bader Ginsburg name pops up and that she's been hospitalized for something, my heart goes to my toe, because I am very concerned that this president will install another person for a lifetime appointment that will roll back a lot of the positions that we thought that were codified into law, that we wouldn't think, oh, he's not going to do that. Well, every time someone says Donald Trump's not going to do it, guess what happens? He does it, and it makes things worse. So there are a lot of things on the line. There's women's reproductive rights, there are human rights, there's so many things on the line that we cannot afford for this person to take the helm for another 4 years. As Mr. Pryor said, Donald Trump had not one position in Congress, not one position in a local election. He has never ran for public office. If you've been paying attention in the last 20 or 30 years, you know who his family, you know what his family is like, you know what his dad is like. You remember what happened to the Central Park Five. Think about that. This man is not a person that should have ever been in charge of this office, of the presidency, and we need to get our country back the way that it should be. And if not, we're going to have an additional 4 years of the same nonsense where you wake up in the middle of the night thinking, oh God, what have we done? Do not wake up on November 4th, 2020 saying I could have done more. Find one of these candidates, find one of these campaigns, donate some money, volunteer. You have 100 days to get your act together. You have 100 days to get your absentee ballot. You have 100 days to ensure that this country is going to be put on the right path back to some kind of normalcy. Because if you don't, see you at the crossroads. I don't know what else to say. I'm done.
I love that. I love that. I want to just piggyback right there. So well said. So well said. I think what I want to say is that, going back to the question, Kanye West, we are not at a juncture in this nation where we can afford to vote for people that we like. Can I say that? Is that okay? Like we cannot, like we are not in a place in our nation where we can say, I'm willing to throw everything away that I know because I like somebody or because I dislike somebody. And also I would ask myself, if I dislike somebody, why do I dislike them? Do I dislike them because of something that I genuinely know or because of something that I heard? I think that these are all distinctions that we have to consider. One thing that I admire about the Republican Party is they vote their issues. Like they really do vote their issues. And I think that the Democratic Party, we are more emotionally based. And because we are emotionally based and emotionally centered, it reflects in a lot of the ways that we vote. I'll give you an example. So the Democratic primary, right? We started out with like 28 people, right? And we talked ourselves out of every single candidate that was not white and younger than 75 years old. We talked ourselves out of all of them. We talked ourselves out of Kamala. We talked ourselves out of Beto. We talked ourselves out of Pete. We talked ourselves out of Elizabeth Warren. Oh, sorry, Anna Mail. We talked ourselves out of all these other candidates who could have been viable candidates. And we, as the Democratic Party, selected Joe Biden as our candidate. Now we got to roll with the horse that got us here. Because like you said, Danielle, so eloquently, on the other side of the fence is a guy who doesn't care about any of us as long as we're not in his base. He does a great job of playing to his base. He knows who his base is, and he does a great job of playing to him. But he doesn't care about the rest of us. And this is the God's honest truth. And it shows, and my grandma says, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. For the last 4 years, Donald Trump has told us and showed us exactly who he is and exactly who he thinks we are. It's time that we listen. It's time that we get active, and it's time that we react. Now, about Vice President Biden. Do I think that Vice President Biden is the greatest person of all to be the next president of the United States? No, I do not. I was a Beto O'Rourke guy. But one thing that I do have confidence in is that Vice President Biden would surround himself with advisors that will be knowledgeable, and he will listen to them. That is something we cannot say about the current person that occupies 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. We have to position ourselves as a country and think about these last 4 years and ask ourselves, can we deal with another 4 years of that guy? Because I would tell you, and I honestly believe that anybody that works for him in a moment of honesty will tell you that we cannot. Get out and vote.
I have one more thing to piggyback after Mr. Lewis. So regarding the Kanye situation, I don't know if everyone else remembers, but I remember him distinctly being at the Resolute desk a few months ago saying, I love that guy, to the current occupier of the White House. I remember distinctly everything that Kanye has done has been either for show, or he's having an emotional break, or he's just whatever the case is. I also remember in 2016, we had a third-party candidate named Joe Stein, Dr. Joe Stein, who was also trying to be the third option, if you will, for the 2016 election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. That third option really put a wrench in a lot of things. There were 3 states, the same amount of votes that Jill Stein received that could have gone to Hillary. She would have won those 3 states that would have gave her the 270 to win the president of the United States. Okay. I see Kanye doing the same exact thing. He claims that he no longer likes Donald Trump and that he's doing this because whatever the case is. This man has no type of politics background. He is a rapper. Not saying any rapper can't run for office and be successful. What I'm saying to you is that think about the mentality. Think about his mindset and where he is and why he's doing this. That show he had in North Charleston was an embarrassment. He went on a rant and verbally attacked a young African-American woman there. And I saw the video. I was very upset. He is not at the mental, he's not cognitively there to be able to run for office and actually become president. We know that he's not going to get the majority pie votes because we all know politics is not just local, but it's also a numbers game. He is not going to have the numbers to become president at all. He also tweeted yesterday that with enough write-ins, he can knock Joe Biden out.
Yes.
So once again, think about the reasons why he is doing this. Is this to hinder or is this to help? And from all the evidence that I've seen, this is to hinder what we're trying to do, not help. So why waste your vote on someone and do a protest vote because your person that was your primary candidate didn't win, or your favorite rapper who sells god ugly shoes to vote for. Why waste your time doing that? Why vote for someone who held a rally here in North Charleston in the middle of a pandemic?
Thank you.
All the people that were there, they had to sign a waiver saying that they're not going to sue if they get sick with COVID. Why would you vote for someone who put your life at risk? Why would you not vote for a person like Joe Biden, who's definitely going to make sure, as Mr. Lewis said, going to have advisors around him, he's going to listen, he's actually going to care. Joe Biden's gone through a lot in the 30 plus years he's been in office. He's lost children, he's lost a wife. He understands real world issues. I cannot imagine voting for a person whose dad had to give him loans to bail him out. And he was in charge of a casino that lost money. What casino do you know loses money? The house always wins. So why vote for a person who, once again, has shown you who he was from day one, who 98% of Black women did not vote for in the 2016 election? And when people say, listen to Black women, y'all need to understand, there's a reason why 90% of us did not vote for Joe Biden. Did not vote for Donald Trump in the 2016 election. Do not be one of those people in the exit polls that does a third party vote, a throwaway vote, or a vote for Donald Trump, and then go on Facebook on November 4th or Twitter and complain about why things the way they are. You have a duty and a privilege. This is your civic right to go out and vote and make a difference. And if you feel like, you know what, I don't feel like voting, then guess what? There's all these campaigns here in Charleston that you can volunteer your time to, that you can donate money to, that you can go out and put out signs. There is always something to do. Do not come on here and complain November 4th and think, oh, well, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. No. There's a reason why people do things they do, and it's not necessarily for your benefit. Kanye is one of those people that are not doing this for a benefit. I have a picture that I post on Twitter. Every time he tweets about how he's going to run for office and do this stuff, there's a picture of him hugging Donald Trump. Remember that. He is not here to help. He is here to hinder. And I yield back the rest of my time.
Listen, that is amazing. And whenever you're talking about his tweet that he tweeted, I saw that he was trying to basically tell his followers that if you vote for me, I can win off of write-ins. And I just think that's just mind-boggling that, you know, he would put that out there and that people would believe him. So
tell him to look at history. Nobody's never won the president as a write-in vote. Okay, you barely won a local election as a write-in vote. So that tells you right there he has no knowledge of how politics works for somebody to tell you I can win with just a write-in vote. How silly can and for somebody to believe that tells you they're not up to par with they should be. You know, I've never in my history in 64 years seen anybody, you know, win a presidency in a write-in vote. So
yeah,
that tells you right there. You know,
and the piggyback off of that, misinformation. That's one thing I wish we had touched on a little bit today, because I'm having difficulty explaining to people why something that someone said needs to be researched and to be confirmed as true. Since the 2016 election, there have been PSYOP campaigns that have been conducted to tell people things that are not necessarily true. A lot of those things came from the Facebook social network. So I need young people especially, do not go by what somebody so-and-so told you about a certain candidate. Research these things for yourself. Ask these questions. We have so much technology at our fingertips. There is no excuse to fall for misinformation. So that's something that I wanted to touch on, because based on what Mr. Pryor said in the Kanye tweets. Civics is probably not taught in schools anymore. And I think it's very important that people do research and understand how politics works. So when they do go out, they're not misinforming other people and giving wrong information that may discourage someone from voting.
Most definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Mr. Lewis, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think I was gonna speak about, you know, don't let people play on your ignorance. Like that's something that's like people if you're not educated about something, like I think Mr. Pryor said, you know, if you don't make a decision, somebody will make a decision for you. Like you don't let people play on your ignorance. Just because you don't know something doesn't mean that you can't learn it. Learn it. Like be intentional. You know, like plan ahead. I gotta reiterate. Plan ahead. Plan ahead. Plan ahead. Don't wait until the day of election to call, you know, your friend that you know votes sometimes and go ask them who they're going to vote for. That's we cannot do it that way. We have to decide who we're going to be going forward. We've protested, we've marched, we've saying we shall overcome. We've said no justice, no peace, no racist police. We've said all of that. All of it means nothing if there's no action put behind it. Protesting is not an action. Protesting is words. The action comes at the polls in November. And President Barack Obama said himself, he said, I get protesting. You must protest. You should agitate. You should apply pressure. But you cannot apply pressure to people that you don't vote for. And I'm going to give you an example really quickly. Charleston, the city of Charleston. I want y'all to watch what's happening in the city of Charleston. Watch what's happening in the city of Charleston. The mayor of Charleston just put his neck on the line in the next election for the African-American community.
Yes.
There's been a lot of moves that have been made that are going to upset a lot of people. When you talk about that Calhoun statue coming down and you talk about people making decisions in regard to that Confederate flag, there are people that's going to be a single issue voter, and that's going to be the issue that makes their feet move. We have to back up that mayor, a mayor who is willing to step out for people like us and say, okay, it's not fair for everybody, so I'm not going to do it. Those people we should be backing. When we abandon those people, the message that we send is, I can't count on them. So I have to make sure I'm doing what it takes to advocate for the people who I know will vote. Don't sit home. I'm telling you, because the person that replaces him and the person that replaces someone with that mindset is going to be on the opposite side. You take that to be what it mean, what you want it to mean. But I promise you that does not mean it will get better for people who believe that Black Lives Matter. It will not make it better for people who believe that you should have equal rights for people. That if you're advocating for gay and lesbian rights, LGBTQTIA plus. I messed up the letters, but y'all know all of them. Like, if you care about those issues, if those are issues that you care about, and you sit on that side of the fence, you better vote. Make these politicians respect your vote. They will not respect your vote if they can't count on it. I'm just telling you.
And you must have an agenda.
Exactly.
Protest
Must.
anything without an agenda, it goes nowhere. You know, you can have all the protests you want, but if you don't have an agenda and a plan of action, you know, people just look at you and say, "Oh well, it's going to go away after the protest."
Yep.
Yes. Stick to your agenda. You have to have a reasonable agenda, things that you know can get accomplished. You know, some people are marching for unreasonable things that will never happen or get accomplished. Stick to a good agenda that's reasonable, that's going to benefit you, our people, our finances, our pocketbook, our life living, our environment. Those are the things we need to be pushing. Okay, you know, people are saying defund the police, defund the police. I mean, that's a one issue. That's a one trick pony. Okay, we should be saying redirect the funds to go to places that is needed. Because I know if I call the police and I'm in stress, I want somebody to show up.
Yeah,
So
I need that.
it shouldn't be defund. It should be redirect the funds.
Yeah.
You know, because you got mental health issues with all this pandemic going on right now. You got people with COVID. So, you got less police now because less people on the street. So some of that money can be directed to do some of the social programs that we actually need. But it takes people in there with good thinking to say, how do we redirect this money?
Absolutely.
Most definitely.
And the redirecting of that money comes from city council, county council. And those are representatives that you vote for. So if you have people in place that are not doing what you need them to do, then those people gotta go. Period. So to Razan's point, one of the things that sticks out to me the most was the Charleston loophole.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that needs to be closed in order for us to prevent something like Manual 9 from happening ever again.
Yes.
We are in the middle of a pandemic and it's hurricane season. I want to make sure that there are people in place who understand, who can make sure that my family and everyone else in the area is safe. If we have a governor who cannot make, proper decisions about sending children to school in the middle of a pandemic, I have no faith in him about a hurricane plus a pandemic. So make sure that you understand that all politics is local. Pay attention to what's happening around you. If you have time to find out, the latest song or the latest dance craze, you also need to know who your representatives are. You also need to know what their background is. And as Mr. Pryor said, have an agenda. I am all for marching because that is your constitutional right to protest. However, you do need to have a goal and set in mind. If you know that you see injustice happening in Charleston, you need to find out who's the right person to make sure that changes. If you want to defund the police or redirect funds, that's fine and all too. You need to make sure you're talking to the right people to make sure that happens. But you also need to vote. There are so many things in this state that needs to happen. Make sure you're voting for the right new senator. I suggest Jamie Harrison. Make sure you're voting for the next representative. I suggest Joe Cunningham. Make sure you're voting for the right president. Wherever you are, make sure you're voting for the right kind of people that's going to make the changes necessary. If you don't vote and the opposition wins, they're going to do the same thing they have been doing, nothing, or making sure that their friends who have the same political views as them or have deep pockets, they're going to do their bidding, and we're going to be on the wayside complaining about it on Facebook and on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever the case is. So make sure you guys understand that we as Democrats, and even if you're not a Democrat or independent, whatever the case is, make your voice heard in any way and all ways possible. And it's just important. I've been voting for a long time. My mom used to take me with her to the polls when I was a child. I was always involved in politics as a child. I remember being one of the only kids watching the impeachment proceedings for Clinton, because I was like, this is a one-time thing. It's probably never going to happen again. I was wrong. But the point is that politics is important, and it's always good to get involved, watch the news, stay involved, stay informed, and do whatever you need to do to make sure that these people in office are representing you. And if they're not doing what they said they were going to do or what they should be doing, vote them out. Period.
Well said.
Yes. Period. Love it. Guys, this has been an excellent discussion. I have something to do, or my parents are live now at 7, so I'm going to try and just redirect this real fast. But once again, I love every single point you all brought, and I know this is going to help so many youth. I just want to restate everything. Even if you are an adult and unregistered to vote, it's very, very good to get registered as soon as you possibly can. And like I said, if you guys send me the links, I will post them in the comments, and they can click on those and register and do the census and all of that. As well, I just want to point out my vote shirt. Once again, it's important. It is so important to vote. Voting in local elections, voting in statewide elections, and just general elections. It is so important because it controls your path. Essentially, it controls what you're able to do within your state. Some fun facts that came about the past week. I'm a sports fanatic, Uncle Z, and he knows how much I love sports. So LeBron James is going to pay the fine for ex-felons to be able to vote this year in Florida. And when I saw that, I was like, that is so cool, players getting in and, encouraging people to vote. I think that is so awesome.
Yep.
And Chris Paul says that Michelle Obama will be addressing players in the bubble, NBA bubble today, to talk about the importance of voting. And I think that's so essential as well, because not a lot of people know the importance, and even celebrities, honestly, I don't know how many, I don't have the stats for what celebrities vote, but I feel like some celebrities may feel like they have everything. They have the money, they have the house, whatever. No authority is going to be able to take that away from them in a sense. But I do think it's important for them to, vote and spread voting on their platform as well. So if you guys have any final words you want to say before we end this, it's been great, and we could go on this forever. I know we can, but if anyone has any last words, you guys can say that.
My last word would be, I'm glad to see young people like y'all getting involved. I mean, Jaden, you're my church family. You've always been involved. You come from great people. Raison, you and your brother Ricardo, and Miss Vincent. You're into politics. Young people. That's who I like to see get involved. Young people, and that's our future. Y'all are our future. Okay. We are moving on, and we need to replace ourselves with young people like y'all. So I encourage y'all, stay involved. I love what I'm seeing, and I think y'all going to do great things for this city and this country. And I look forward to working with y'all as much as I can. But know that I love you, young people, and I'm here for you. Any questions, any comments, I'm always accessible. And sometimes I got a drill sergeant voice, but don't take it as being mean-spirited or mad, but that's just, my voice. I'm a loud person. I get that. I inherited that from my daddy. And, I love young people. I got young kids, like I said, 7 grandkids. My oldest just graduated from the University of Georgia, and I'm trying to get her involved. So, she's been voting since she was 18 years old. So, just stay involved, and, whatever you do, put God first, and everything else will fall in place.
Thank you. Awesome.
Razan, did you want to go? Oh, I'll just go. I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be on this panel. I normally shy away from these kinds of things because I get really camera shy. But it's to the point where you have to just, bypass all that and get your words out, because it's important for people to see young people like us, out here trying to save democracy one day at a time. And it's important that we do show up, because we're not going to be young forever. We're going to get, we're going to be old eventually. And a lot of these things that we're not doing now will affect us in the future. So as Mr. Pryor's point, get involved, stay informed. Don't fall prey to misinformation. Find the information out for yourself. And once again, it's okay not to know. I know some people get embarrassed when they don't know an answer or don't know something right away. It's okay to ask questions and to find out the answers, especially when it comes to elections. I know a lot of it can be confusing, and that's part of the voter suppression that we have in our state. There's so many different things that you need to know in order to be informed. If you go and vote and there's an issue, as Mr. Pryor said, you can do a provisional ballot. Make sure you have all your addresses and your IDs up to date. Go to the DMV and make sure everything is situated just like you would with your license and your insurance and your tires and your oil changes. Same thing with your voter card. Make sure your addresses and everything's up to date with your name and everything. And also, encourage others to vote. I know it's really easy to post online about how you don't like how something went down or how, this is not fair, whatever the case is. But, you still have to get involved. You still have to get informed and make it fair. Make it fair not just for you, but for your family and your friends. We do have to share this big blue marble with other people. And our actions do affect other people. As I said before, in the 2010 midterm election, a lot of us didn't do what we were supposed to do. And it really did change the domino effect to what's happening in 2020. So make sure you guys are making a plan to vote. If you have questions, ask. As I said, there's plenty of resources out there. Make a plan to vote. Go with friends. Make a day out of it. Go get something to eat. Go get something to drink. Social distancing, and wear your mask. I need everybody to wear a mask. Corona is not playing with us. And I wanted to make sure I said that, because I'm seeing a lot of people not wearing masks. We need you to live for November 3rd, 2020. So yes. I just want to make sure I said that. So that's all I have to say.
Love that.
I guess I'll bring it home for you. I want to thank Jaden, Nisi J, for having this. Like Mr. Pryor said, it's amazing to see the generations getting involved now, man. I tell my daughters all the time, I'm really encouraged by this generation. You guys have really picked up. Y'all are the most active generation I've seen since the probably early 70s, and I love it. I love it. I want y'all to stay active. I want you to continue to make your voice heard. People like Jaden, you're going to lead that charge because you have the mindset, you have the temperament, and you know how to reach out to people. You're not afraid to say, I don't know. And that's another thing, young people. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. You don't have to be a know-it-all because you know something, right? I'm 38 years old. I don't know it all. In fact, because I don't know it all, Mr. Pryor, you asked earlier about mentoring somebody who's interested in getting into it. I'd love to take you up on that offer. Because I could use one. Though I work in mentorship, mentors need mentors too. So I'm definitely gonna be reaching out to you about that. But young people, be fearless. Be fearless. Oh, Danielle, you already know. Y'all don't know. Danielle didn't talk about all the dope stuff that she does, but I'm just gonna tell you that she's gonna be around a whole lot more. And I don't know if she seemed shy, but she definitely didn't seem shy. So anyway, Be fearless. Be fearless. But being fearless doesn't mean being stupid. Be fearless enough to advocate for yourself. Be fearless enough to learn information for yourself without somebody telling you. Be fearless enough to advocate for people who can't advocate for themselves. Be fearless enough to stand up for somebody who can't stand up for themselves. Be fearless and don't be afraid to be told that you're too young, because you're not. You're not. You're never too young to get involved. Like Danielle said, I take my kids with me to vote every year because it's important that they understand that that's a part of it. I listen to the presidential debates with my kids. I listen to books with my kids. I listen to podcasts about politics with my kids. I listen to CNN with my kids. I listen to Fox News with my kids because I want my kids to understand that there are multiple perspectives out here, and I don't want to force my thoughts on them. I want them to gather it for themselves. So go out and get that information for yourself. If you don't know, ask and be willing to be malleable, be taught. Jaden, I love you and the fam. Thank you for doing this, and keep it rolling.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate every single last one of you guys on here. It means a lot to me, and I know it's going to impact a lot of people. So thank you guys for your time once again. And send me those links, and I'll post them so everyone can see them. You guys have a great night.
Peace, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, Tavante, thank you for watching.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.